Hi, my name is Scott Parnell. I'm with Samson Sports. I'm going to show you how we install this tower. Generally, a boat owner will take a little longer than a shop. Usually does at least as nice a job because they're going to measure 10 times before they drill the first hole. But it's not something that should intimidate anybody. If you can read and follow the directions that come with it, it'll come with all the mounting hardware and detailed instructions on how to put the tower on. Okay, the average tower weighs, an edge tower weighs about 100 pounds. When the tower is shipped, it'll come with these rubber feet. This allows the customer to put it on top of the boat, move it all around without drilling any holes. They can place it where it's going to go, and they don't have to worry about making a mistake. On the edge tower, this lower part is designed to match the window frame, and we want to match the slope of the windshield. So now you can kind of see that with this mounted here, we've matched this angle, matched that angle. If you're sitting inside the boat looking out, you won't have a piece of tubing blocking your vision like you do on many other towers. Also, it just makes it look like the tower is part of the boat because it's obviously made for this boat. So once we got this into place, with a T-handled Allen wrench, we want this curve or this angle here to match the angle of the boat. After we do that, we'll check our height one more time. With the dry erase marker, I just trace around there. He'll do the same on the other side. So we've got our front hole positioned already. Now we're just going to prepare that hole for drilling. So this will come in the kit. All this for is a template for you to put around your hole. You just center that on the dry erase mark that you've made. Just like that. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Before we drill any holes, we're going to check all four corners. Some people think, well, we'll drill the first hole and then check the back. Maybe there's some obstruction here where you couldn't drill that hole. But by checking this, we're kind of locked into the back. So he's going to check all four locations before we drill any holes. If we needed to, we might move the tower forward an inch or back an inch. And he's going to check them all right now before I drill any holes. Normally, you would just put your drill bit in the center of that hole. This is where you can get some chipping if you're not careful. So as a rule of thumb, the way to avoid that is to run the drill in reverse. So if you'll notice how we've centered that hole, it will drill, but it won't try to grab the gel coat and make it flake off. Once you're through the gel coat, you can put it in forward. It's just as easy to drill the whole thing in reverse. Like that. This is one of the most important things to keep gel coat cracks from happening. This is called a grinding ball that comes with every tower. So in the hardware kit, you would get this and the appropriate curved hardware. So this you just put in your drill. About like that. So what we've done is just chamfer that hole so that none of the load is transferred to the gel coat, it's all transferred to the fiberglass. One of the things that we do differently that will make sure that we're not going to get cracks later, it's very important to match this shape to the hardware. So on a universal tower where one size fits all, you get some kind of flat hardware because they never know what kind of boat it's going on. So since this is curved, you can see how that would rock back and forth. Even if we put a thick gasket in there, like some tower companies do, you're still just putting the pressure on this high spot. Well, what that does eventually is when you tighten this down, it forces the glass to conform to this shape, which puts a lot of stress on it. The correct way would be to match the shape to these. So for instance, there's one with a pretty steep curve. That's much steeper than what this. So this is too steep for that. You can see how it would rock around. But with each tower, we will have documented before we ever sent it to you, okay, it's this brand of boat, it needs this hardware, and many times that curve would be different from here to the other side. So you may get 4 different curved mounting pieces to put on your boat, but when you get it, you know that it's going to match that boat. So this is what we would call an 80 thousandths washer, which is our way of cataloging what radius this boat is. So you can see when I put it on there, I'll rotate it till it doesn't rock back and forth anymore. So you can kind of see how this fits perfectly to match this shape of the fiberglass. So when we put our backing plates on the inside, that we're not putting stress by trying to flatten this out. It's staying its natural shape. There's a rubber gasket. The purpose of this gasket is not really to take up the shape. We've done that with this. The purpose of the gasket is just to keep it from scratching and keeping it watertight. So what I would do on this, we want to make sure that this doesn't spin as we're putting it on. So I'm going to fit this to where it matches nicely and not rocking back and forth. And then with the Sharpie, I make a mark there and a mark there. You can use a dry erase marker also. This is just a reference mark so that after we put this on, we know that this thing doesn't rotate and not fit the shape of the boat. So I've got this marked. Now we're ready to install the mounting foot. We've got the curved washer on there that's marked. We're going to put our rubber gasket, stick that in the hole that's been chamfered, and we just line these back up again so that this mark is lined up with that mark. If you use a Sharpie, you'll want to use some polish to remove that mark. If you use a dry erase, you can just wipe it off. So this will also come in the mounting hardware kit. What this is for is you're going to screw this into here. There's just one. This will be your handle to hold this while you're snugging it up. So this is a part where you need 2 people for the installation. So we've got a backing plate, a couple backing plates on the inside. The guy on the outside is just going to hold this and watch that mark, your reference mark, to make sure it's not turning. So the guy on the outside, usually it's not going to turn, but he's just going to hold on to this and keep an eye on that while the guy on the inside tightens up the nut that goes on it. Okay, so we found on every boat, usually the outside of the boat is curved. So we've already went over how we match the shape of the fiberglass by curving radius in this piece. On the inside, this piece, this is your first backing plate. So if we put it on the inside, it's going to touch just in the high spots and have a big void in the middle. This would go over the top of it, so there's a nut that tightens this onto here and sandwiches in between the fiberglass. But to make sure we're not going to get any cracks, the tower will come with a 2-part epoxy paste. So he's mixed up the paste already. He's going to butter this backing plate up and then put it on the inside of the boat. Put this on, put his nut on. He's going to tighten it till epoxy starts to squeeze out the edge. As soon as it starts squeezing out the edge, he's going to stop and go to the other side and let this cure. It takes about 15 or 20 minutes to cure depending on temperature. So he'll butter this up, put it on, have the person on the outside hold that black bolt. As soon as it starts to get tight, then he will go to the other side and do the same thing. My job is to hold this from spinning. I've got my reference marks that are lined up, and while he's putting the composite backing plate with epoxy on it, he's pushing that up against the fiberglass, then that aluminum plate goes over the top of it, and then a washer and a nylock nut. On the inside, this is showing a kind of a close-up of the backing plate. You'll see the composite backing plate that we put epoxy on, and then an aluminum plate over that, then a nylock nut. When you're tightening this down, just make sure that the backing plates are following the lines of the boat. After both sides are drilled, you've got the mounting feet in the proper place with your reference marks lined up. Now we're going to attach the tower to that mounting foot. Take the bolt out, set that there. Now we're just going to set the tower up on top. So you can see here, we've kind of guessed how this should be. the angle of it. What we want to do is to make sure that these two faces line up. I can stick that through there and twist it that way. If this one is off, suppose this were sitting on there, I'll turn it this way, like that. Well, obviously that's not the right way, but in combination of twisting out, you should get those two faces to line up like that. So we get those faces close. After this is tight, you don't want to crank it down all the way. Just for now, snug it down. Then we'll go to the back, and when we're all done, we'll go back with the Allen wrench and tighten these down as tight as we can get them. But for now, you just want it snug. Okay, now we're ready to mark the back holes. So kind of what we're doing, we had it up there once. We just want to make sure that this lines up with this top edge of the window frame. You just stand back, come down about 1/2 inch, Brian, right there. Just trace around that. That I do just to make it symmetrical is, like if you have a line you can measure from here or here, I will measure off of this side here. So from this crease right there, we're down about 3/4 of an inch. So on the other side, I'm going to come down 3/4 of an inch and make sure that we're symmetrical on both sides. It's best not to use pinstriping because the pinstriping can be off a little bit. It's better to find a body line in the top deck itself that you can measure off of, either up from here or down from there. So you can see how curved this is. If we were just to put a flat piece of aluminum on this, you can see what that would look like. See how much that would rock back and forth. And what would eventually happen, when we tighten this from the inside, over time it's going to flatten this shape out to match this, and it's going to stress the glass all around this. So what we want to do is use one of these mounts that's machined to that. So you can see how if I put that up there, it can't rock back and forth on the top or the bottom because we've shaped that to the curvature of the boat. This makes sure that when the load's put on a tower, if a guy's doing a hard cut, that it's not just stressing one part of the fiberglass, it's spreading that load over the whole thing. On the inside, it's curved there just like in the front, so we would use the epoxy paste on our backing plate to kind of fill in the void on the inside too. So we would stick this in our rubber washer, put that in there and line that up with our mark and tighten it back just like we did on the front.